going to set a little intention that Shaina's story today can help inspire at least one person out there to make their own comeback. We're clearing the space, clearing out.
We are here with Shaina. I'm going to let you take it away. Tell us who you are. What do you do?
Yeah, hey guys, my name is Shaina Ray. I'm an RTT hypnotherapist, breathwork facilitator, and sound healer.
We came across Shaina's Instagram page. She had actually shared her own comeback story of how she healed herself and kind of got through all of these multiple rock bottom situations. So take us back to your rock bottom.
Basically, back in May of 2017, my dad committed suicide after a really long battle with alcohol and prescription drugs. And it was a really hard loss for me just because we were really close and we were finally rebuilding our relationship. And so once he passed, I had to fly up to Oregon, pack up all this stuff, do the paperwork, all the things that go with death. And when I returned back home 2 weeks later, I just pretended like everything was okay. All my life, I was such a glass half full kind of girl. I hated to see have anyone see me in pain. I always figured it out all on my own. And so that's what I did. I just didn't want other people to worry about me. So I was like, I'm fine. I'm going to just keep moving on with my life. Everything's okay. And 3 months later, I just started to get weird physical symptoms all over my body. And no doctor could explain it. It took me about 6 months to figure out what it was. And all of these Western medical doctors were just like, you dealt with a lot of trauma. Here's some prescription pills. But of course, that did not sit well with me. I didn't want to go down the same path as my dad. So I just kept looking and eventually found a functional medicine doctor that actually found that I had mold. I was in a water damaged building for 3.5 years, and it just got to a point where I had this gene that couldn't detox mold properly. So it was just accumulating, and over time I just hit a threshold where all of these physical symptoms started to pop up. So it was great to find a root cause.
What were the physical symptoms that you were experiencing?
So the main symptom I had was it felt like I had 3rd-degree burns all over my body. It was wild. And what's even more crazy is I didn't have redness, I didn't have a rash, so no one could see it, only I could feel it. So that was really hard.
Did it ever subside, or were there things that made it flare up at certain times, or it was just nonstop?
No, it was constant. It was just 24/7, and I refused to take prescription pills. So the only thing that was helping was ice packs. So literally all I would do all day was rotate. My husband would be a sweetheart and rotate ice packs for me all day. And that was the only way I was able to get relief.
That's wild. I've never even heard of that as a symptom.
Yeah, what's so crazy about mold is it affects everyone differently. And so everyone has different types of symptoms. So it's a very interesting, wild condition. For me, the mold gave me mast cell activation syndrome. So basically your body is releasing too much histamine. So that's where they think I had this burning skin reaction because I was just having too much histamine released out of my body.
Wow, that's really scary. So while this is happening and you're feeling all these symptoms, what was going on in your head? What did you fear the most at that point?
I just feared that I wasn't going to get better, because once I figured out it was mold, I decided to take a holistic detox route, but the detox process was so painful. I was just getting in more pain. I was losing clumps of my hair. I was dealing with so much anxiety, depression, and I did become suicidal because I just was in so much pain 24/7 and really had no relief. So I think my biggest fear was just oh my God, can I get out of this? Can I figure this out? And once I hit that rock bottom moment, because I even lost my job because I couldn't go into the office anymore, I just out of nowhere, I went from having everything to losing everything. And it was just kind of this what the fuck moment for me. And so once I hit that rock bottom moment of I just don't want to be here anymore, I almost stopped myself. I'm like, no, you're not going to follow the same path as your dad. You're not going to do that. You're going to figure this out. And so I basically just stopped listening to the doctors and was I'm going to figure this out on my own. And so I would wake up every single morning, go straight to my desk with my ice packs, and I just started researching. I started researching the subconscious mind and our ability to heal ourselves. And after many different trial and error attempts of different modalities, like I feel like I tried everything. I finally created an action plan that helped improve my physical symptoms and completely healed my chronic anxiety and depression.
So while you're at this rock bottom place, this moment where you're like, my life has done a complete 360, can you really pinpoint like what it was, like the turning point for you, where you're like, I'm going to take this into my own hands and turn my life back around?
I think the turning point was me finally listening to my intuition. Like, I was doing everything that the functional medicine doctors were telling me to do, and I was just getting in more pain. I was getting more sick, and they were always saying like, oh, it's going to get worse before it gets better. I'm like, yeah, but I'm getting worse, like, and we're on this journey for 6 months now. Like, something has to fucking change. And so for me, it was just like this turning point of like, okay, let me listen to my intuition here. Like, there's something not adding up. So, and I also thought like this, all these physical symptoms started to happen after my dad passed. Like, there has to be a connection there. Like, none of my doctors were talking about my trauma. Cause like when I talked to Western medical doctors, they're like, take heavy prescription pills. But that just masks the pain, that masks the trauma. So, and then when I went to a functional medicine doctor, they didn't even talk about the trauma. And I'm like, well, I think there is something to do with this trauma. Like, how could I have been perfectly healthy all of my life, and then all of a sudden, all of this came crashing down on me? So my turning point was just like finally going like, I felt like my intuition every day was like, Shaina, this is not right. This is not adding up. And once I felt the worst I could possibly feel, I'm like, okay, intuition, I'm gonna finally fucking listen to you. Like, it's time to take this healing into my own hands. And once I did that, things started to finally shift for me.
So what steps did you take? Like, what was your first, was it just getting on your laptop and like Googling, or like what was your first?
Yeah, I was looking at everything. There's like a documentary called Heal, and how people can like heal their bodies. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. So I started just looking at that and being like, okay, what did these people do? What did these people do? And then it got me down a rabbit hole of the subconscious mind, because 95% of our thoughts are subconscious. And so then I'm like, okay, how do you access your subconscious mind? And I went into everything that I was reading was like hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy it gets you to your theta brainwave so that you can access your emotional brain, which is your subconscious mind. And so I was just like, okay, there's got to be something to this. So I started looking at different hypnotherapy modalities. And then it came to this modality that I'm trained in, which is called rapid transformational therapy. So it blends hypnotherapy with other healing modalities like positive psychology, CBT, NLP. So it's like pretty much everything into one while working with your subconscious mind. And so I started there and had a session that was mind-blowing to me, just like absolutely mind-blowing, that tied a lot of the pain I was feeling to the grief that I had suppressed. So what I loved about RTT was it finally gave me some direction. Like, okay, like now I need to release these suppressed emotions, this grief I've had towards my dad. How do I do that? So then it went from like, okay, subconscious mind to, okay, release suppressed emotions. How do you do that? And so then I found breathwork and sound healing, because breathwork helps remove like stagnant energy and those suppressed emotions and allows you to kind of like feel again. Because that was the thing, is like I'd sometimes like go to my room and like try to cry. I'd be like, okay, like be sad, like it's in there.
Yeah.
Give me a good cry.
Everyone feels better after a good cry. Like I'm all for it. I always was. But like for some reason I was like stuck. I was literally stuck. I was like trying to cry. I'm like, why can't I fucking grieve my dad? Like, this is sad. This is hard. And so breathwork and sound healing were just those modalities that allowed me to get to that place. Because I think a big indicator when you can't just cry on your own, it's like you're too much in your head. You're in the mental, that you can't tap back into your body. And so what I love about breath work is it allows you to unhook your mind. And when you finally can unhook your mind and put your awareness on your body, that's when you're able to release so much.
Bring us to your first breath work session. Like, what was that like? What did you feel?
Wild. Well, it's so funny because I didn't even do a breathwork session in person. I bought these like a set of audios like online. It was just like a 6-week immersion and you could do it on your own.
Wow.
And it's so funny because like I didn't know all the physical things that can happen in breathwork. So it was like a shock to my system.
That's gonna be scary if I'm going into this for my first time alone, like not knowing what to expect.
Your hands
like,
are tingling
yeah,
and you're like,
all the
oh
physical things that happen, like that. I'm terrified for you for that first time.
Yeah, it was so funny because I was just like, and it was weird. It was almost like my intuition was like, trust it. I didn't stop. I just like kept going. I was like, this feels uncomfortable. My hands, I started getting like lobster claws, you know, like my face started to get really tight and yeah, literally paralyzed. And what's funny is normal me would be like, what the fuck? Like, I need to stop this. This isn't safe. But I just think through this healing journey, I started just listening to my intuition more and I'm like, get curious about this. Like, why does it feel this way? And so I just kept going. I was like crying. I had lobster claws, tingling, like tight face, like literally all of the symptoms that they say you might feel. I hit all of them in that one session. And I remember after, because I think the most rewarding part about breath work is once you release the active breath and you can finally settle into your body, you like instantly feel a shift. And I was like, okay, I feel different. Like there was something to this. And then of course I like looked it up, tightness in hands, like what the fuck was I feeling? And it's all that's normal, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, I wish I got that little preface, but warning would have been nice. But yeah, when I did that session, I'm like, oh my God, I need to keep doing this. Like, this is what's finally getting me to that place to release.
What would you say to someone that maybe is struggling with that? Like, how did you learn to just tap into your intuition? And how could someone that may be struggling with that, like, figure out how to do that?
I think all my life, because everyone always says, trust your intuition, trust your intuition. I always was like, I'm fucking terrible at trusting my intuition. Like, what does that even mean? And I think the biggest key with kind of flexing that intuition muscle is to just go with it. Be like, okay, like I'm feeling this way, I'm gonna do it. And you might fail, like it might not work out for you. It might work out for you. So my thing was like, if you feel your gut or if you feel your mind telling you to do something, like try it. And if it doesn't work out, then you can be like, okay, that wasn't my intuition. That might have been like fear or whatever. And you just keep trying, keep listening. And then eventually once like you listen to something and it actually works, you can be like, okay, that's what intuition feels like. You know, so it's just, I think intuition, people don't really explain it this way, but I think it's a total trial and error concept. Like, I think you have to think you're listening to it and see where it takes you, and then you can, you know, figure it out from there. Like, okay, that wasn't my intuition. Okay, that was my intuition. And then you'll start gauging those feelings better.
I think it's just like such incredible proof, even hearing you tell this story about the mind-body connection. And then it's like whatever your mind is like suppressing, it's going to show up in your physical body. Because like if you're not listening to, you know, your gut or your intuition, you're not letting yourself feel those emotions, it's going to show up somewhere else in your life. And like, unfortunately for you, it was these physical symptoms, but it's like knowing that it was really, you had to do the work mentally to find that relief is just like such proof.
You just have to listen. You have to listen. It's a balance. Like it's called the mind-body connection for a reason. Like you can't just listen to your body or just listen to your mind. You need to kind of have that like balance and flow, and that just gets better over time. You just have to start leaning into what is resonating with you, what's lighting you up, what's making you go, okay, this seems like something to try, and then go from there.
You did a lot of the self-research and just figuring out like what is it that's happening and connecting these dots and trusting your intuition. But did you have support from anyone along the way?
I definitely had amazing support. My husband was my rock. Like, he was amazing. I can't reiterate how amazing my husband was, and that was crucial for me, because on those days where I couldn't believe that I could heal, he was like, no, you're gonna figure this out. He just had unshakable faith in me. Like, even when I told him like I don't want to be here anymore, and that's heavy. Like, hearing your wife say that she doesn't want to be here anymore, he didn't freak out. He didn't go, oh no, or like try to fix it or whatever. He was just, no, you're gonna figure this out. He just gave me that unshakable faith that was okay, like, yeah, I will figure this out. So it was great because I think the great thing about my support or my journey was that no one was trying to fix me, but everyone knew I could figure it out. They're like, you've gone through so much and you've always overcome it. You're gonna figure this out. And that was enough for me to keep going on my own journey and keep figuring it out on my own, was just knowing that there were other people that knew I could figure it out too.
How long would you say it kind of took you from that rock bottom moment to, obviously healing's not like a...
Yeah, it's never linear. That's what I tell all of my clients. I wish someone had told me that whenever you have a bad day, like, that doesn't mean that you're regressing. It just means that you're on a verge of a massive breakthrough. Because with every expansion, there's a contraction first, right? So that's what I tell my clients all the time. Like, the healing journey is you're always going to be on a healing journey. Welcome to the club. And when you're just about to hit that threshold, that breakthrough, you're going to feel the most resistance, the most fear, the most shit in the world before you get to that. So now whenever I'm having a bad day or feel like I'm regressing in some way, I kind of stop myself. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm on the verge of something big here. Like, I'm about to break through to something that I haven't. And time again, anytime I've had that rough, shitty day, I've had a massive breakthrough that up levels my life.
Something that everybody needs to keep in mind, you know, it's not...
Yeah.
You don't just see the results right away.
Because something I learned on my healing journey, because I used to always be good vibes only, like stay positive, whatever. And now I just kind of realized how toxic that positivity, like, yes, you do want to be a glass half full kind of person, but you have to just also honor the shitty feelings. Like, I think something we don't do well in our society is feel the heavy emotion. We think when we're sad or angry or whatever, something went terribly wrong. And it's like, no, that's just part of life. Like, we have all of these emotions not to fuck us over. It's like we have them because that's what makes us human. And we need to honor every single emotion, like the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when you're having, it's just inevitable. Like, you're gonna have shit days. Like, you're gonna have times where life feels like it just bitch slapped you in the face. Like, I think people just need to have that awareness. Yeah, shit's gonna happen, and it doesn't mean I'm regressing. It doesn't mean I did anything wrong. It just means that I had a lesson to learn. I still now explain to my clients, like, life is like a game. In order to up level, you have to go through some shit. You need to learn a lesson before you can move up. You can't move up a level without learning what you need to learn at the level before that, you know? So it's just like, having that awareness and that understanding helps you move through your pain so much easier.
It feels like you're taking 5 steps forward, 4 steps back, but it's still, you took that one step. I think that's like a huge takeaway from this. What's something that no one tells you about the comeback?
Just that the universe won't like ever give you obstacles you can't handle. Like, I think sometimes people just can get lost in their pain and not realize that, like, it was set in your path because you're meant for more. For me, like, I had a corporate job that I did really love, and I felt like I was very comfortable with my life. And then when this all came crashing down and I started to heal, I kind of realized, I think the universe kind of pushed me, because it's like, no, you're meant to do more. Like, you're meant to do way more than what you're doing in your 9 to 5. You're meant to help people. You're meant to, like, get to the other side so you can teach other people. So I think if you're going through a hard time, you just have to realize, like, the universe set this in your life because there's something better. There's something more to learn. There's something better for your life, and you just have to figure out what that is. And then your life gets better. I mean, like, I now get to help people break free from what I broke free from. That is way more fulfilling than the job that I had before. Like, it's such a feel-good job, and I'm just lit up by the work that I do. I can't stop researching more and more of how I can benefit, like, help my clients on a deeper level. Like, it's all so interesting to me, and none of it would have happened if I didn't go through the shit that I went through.
Yeah, you probably would have never even known about RTT.
Oh, none of this stuff. Like, I'm teaching all of my friends all of these things, and they're just like, what is this? And it's so funny, because I still have to wrap people's head around hypnotherapy, because they're like, is it like a stage hypnotist? Like, what are you doing to me? Like, so I still gotta work with, like, that block that everyone has. It's like, no, I can't fucking make you sing a Shakira song. Like, I can't.
For anybody at home who wants to know what the fuck is hypnotherapy, go check out Shaina's WTF series on ELEVARI, and you will find out all about it
on our IG.
Yes, because it's such an amazing healing modality. It's just like, why wouldn't you want faster results? You know, like, when we're in pain, we want to get out of it as fast as we can. We want to process it so we can move the fuck on. And hypnotherapy is one of those tools that is amazing, that I'm happy to explain, happy to keep putting out on my social media, because this is a huge key to healing that makes the process so much quicker.
What's some advice that you got along the way? What the best advice you got along the way?
You have the power to heal yourself. Honestly, because the healing, I put the ball in my court and figured things out on my own. It wasn't necessarily the advice I got from other people, but the best advice I have from the work that I did is that you do have the power to heal yourself, and really listen to your intuition, listen to what you feel is right and what you feel is wrong, and let that guide you to figure it out on your own. I think something in the therapy industry that we're really lacking is this sense of empowerment. I felt like before I got into RTT hypnotherapy, I did try talk therapy. And for me personally, and I have no bad ill will to talk therapy, I think it does definitely help people, and sometimes you just need that soundboard to talk to. But I personally found the experience to be incredibly disempowering. Like, they just made me feel really bad for how I was feeling, or why I don't know, it didn't feel good to me. And so what I've created from that space is teaching people that, like, no, you have the power to heal yourself. And through self-awareness and these different tools that I teach in my program, it helps you finally realize that you can turn inward. And you can, like, oh, like, why am I feeling this way? Or why do I have these physical symptoms or whatever? It's like I have now all these different tools that can help you figure it out for yourself. So I think it's just more of an advice of, if you're going through a hard time, if you're stuck, healing is possible for you, and you can do it yourself. Even if you do seek help, I think ultimately they just give you a mirror to help you remember who you truly are, but you're the one doing the work.
Knowing what you know now about healing yourself, if you could go back to that terrible rock bottom moment before you got sick, but when your dad first passed, is there anything you would change about the way you kind of handled that grief?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because like I was telling you, I was such a happy, positive person, and I kept saying to myself, like, my dad wouldn't want to see me in pain. Like, my dad would want me to move on with my life. So if I could go back, I would allow myself to feel all the emotions that I did feel, because I was sad. I just didn't allow myself to go there. I didn't allow people to see me in pain. And that's another thing, is like, there's so much power in community that I never realized until I got sick. Like, I always was like, I can do this on my own, I can handle it, but there has to be a balance. You have to be able to be vulnerable with people, which that was something I was never, and I think that's a huge healing tool. It's like, yes, you can figure things out on your own, but you also need to be able to be vulnerable with people and to just be able to release in that way. So if I could go back, I would have given myself the time. I wouldn't have stayed so busy. I would have allowed myself to feel the grief and not feel guilty for taking time for myself and allowing people to be there for me, because there were some people that would give me gifts or check in with me, and I just kind of pushed it away. I was just like, thank you, but like, stop giving me stuff. Like, I don't want this attention. I don't want it. But it's like something that I think a lot of us have trouble with, is this, like, flexing the muscle of receiving. Like, I always struggled with receiving compliments. Even I think all of us, like, oh, I really like your shirt, oh, this thing, like, I got this at a garage sale. It's like, not that big. It's like, no, why don't you just say thank you? And that is something I learned in my healing journey, was it's okay to receive. It's okay for people to be there for you when you're going through a hard time. Like, that doesn't make you weak, that makes you human. So just honoring that time. Like, if anyone that watches this video, if you ever are going through grief, let yourself go through it. It is one of the hardest human emotions we have, but you have to get through it, or else you'll get physical symptoms like me. Like, don't do what I did. Let yourself feel the grief, and grief doesn't have to look a certain way. That was something also that I learned, was that my family, we all dealt with the grief so differently, and that's okay. We can't judge people's way of grieving. We just have to let everyone go through their own process. But it is a process of anger, sadness, like depression. Like, you go through these cycles, but you'll get through it. I think sometimes people get scared of heavy emotions because they think that they'll just sit in them. Oh my God, what if I never stop feeling this way? It's like, emotions are just there to come and pass through our bodies. Like, it's not going to last forever. You just have to honor it, feel it, so that you can heal it and let it go.
You know, there's so many people dealing with grief different ways. So I think that's really helpful.
So what would your final words for Team ELEVARI be?
Something that I always tell myself every day is like, the universe will never give you anything you can't handle. So whatever you're going through, you can and you will overcome it. It was just set in your path so that you can have a better life. And it might not feel that way right now, but trust me, you'll be able to look back and be like, oh shit, like my life is so much better. Oh shit, like I have so much more compassion for people. Like pain does create purpose, and you're gonna be good.